Hello, my name is Dennis Anderson. I am the lead administrator for graduate and non-traditional students in the Career Management Center for Rawls College of Business. Part of my responsibilities is to work with international students and help them in their career path. So today I want to do a workshop on working in the USA, what every international student needs to know. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Do a little screen share, and we can get started. First thing is I want to tell you about a very important resource that you have access to, and that is called INTERSTRIDE. INTERSTRIDE is an interactive platform to help enhance your career exploration and your job search. It is both a web and mobile-based application for career resources. You can set up a professional profile. You can look at the visa process, do job search and professional networking on this platform. And it is free to you as a Rawls student. It is something that we pay for you. To log into INTERSTRIDE, you simply go to interstride.com, click on the student login, enter your TTU email address, then you'll need to verify your address and set up a password to log in. There, you will be able to learn about visa and immigration statuses. You're going to get updated information there. Whenever you need to look at it, they will have updated information because that kind of stuff changes all the time. They are going to provide a roadmap for your job search process. This is a difficult road, so you're going to need a roadmap for that. You're also going to be able to view videos, see animations, visualizations on this process. It's going to help you tremendously. You can also see visa sponsorship records. Now, what this means is if you've got a company that you're interested in, you can look them up on INTERSTRIDE and see how many visas they have sponsored over the years or over the last year. Because sometimes you may talk to a recruiter and the conversation gets around and they go, oh, I'm sorry, we don't sponsor. But you go on INTERSTRIDE and look at the sponsorship records and you realize that maybe they do sponsor. You're just not talking to the right person. So that's a very good resource because a lot of students will come back and say, well, they told me that they don't sponsor, but then they do. There's some productivity tools that you can tap into. You can also take part in webinars that they offer on a very regular basis. I get emails all the time about webinars that they're coming up with. There's also great networking tools that are available as a part of that resource. But first things first, let's talk about the Rawls Career Management Center, what we can do to help you here. The first thing that we can do and help you with is your professional documents. Now, this includes resumes, it includes cover letters, it includes your LinkedIn profile, all of those kinds of things. You do need to make sure that you are a part of our handshake platform. As a Rawls student, you have access to that. Simply go to hirerawls.joinhandshake.com and get your profile set up and get started on that. Again, this is a free service to you. That's where you can start downloading your professional documents and have me look over those and give you feedback on that. You can also set up for mock interviews through Handshake. One of the things about interviewing is the more you do it, the better you get. And so you want to have these mock interviews so that you can be practiced up and ready for a real interview so that you're not as nervous when you get in there. We can also show you networking techniques and ideas, how you go about doing that. We also have career fairs. Career fairs are, again, handled through handshake. In the past, we have always had very large in-person career fairs, but with the current situation with COVID, those have now gone all virtual, and those are all handled through handshake. We can also provide career advising. I can sit down with you and go over some ideas and talk about what you would like to do as a career. Here's some basic things that you really do need to know. Finding work here in the United States is going to be very different from your home country. There is not one magical solution to this process. There's not a magic bullet or a magic formula. There's some things that you can do to help yourself in this area so that you have a better chance of finding that position that you really desire. But again, there's no magic bullet. I want to make sure that you start early. That cannot be overemphasized at all. Internships are also extremely important. It gives you experience in the field that companies are looking for. It looks really good on your resume, and it helps fill that resume out. And you can show the company that you have the background that it takes in order to do the job that you're applying for. Have I mentioned that you need to start early? Keep that in mind. You also want to make sure that you work to improve your English skills. If your English skills aren't good, guys, honestly, qualifications almost don't matter. If you can't communicate well, then they're going to go on to somebody else that can. So you want to work on those skills. Now, I will tell you, English is a very difficult language. If this is your second language, it's a major challenge to get all of the little nuances down so that you're good at it. So the more you work at it, the better you become. Here's some resources for improving your American English. And again, American English sometimes is very different from other parts of the world that still speak English. ELSA Pronunciation Coach. That is a free app that you can download. There's English Central. TED.com. TED Talks. These are very accomplished speakers, and you can learn a lot just by listening to them. American Rhetoric is also a good resource. Ad Astra Speech Resources is good. Toastmasters. There's actually a Toastmasters chapter that I know in the past has actually met here at Rawls. So you might do some research and find out if they're still meeting here, or if there's a Toastmasters here in Lubbock that you can become a part of. They are there to help people with their speaking skills, their especially public speaking skills. So tap into that. There is Literacy Lubbock. I know people that have volunteered down there to help students with their English skills. You also want to find a language buddy or even two. Get to know somebody pretty well and encourage them to help you with your English, because again, it's something that does take practice. Don't be afraid to speak up. I know a lot of times when we're unsure of our speaking skills, we have a tendency to, first of all, use a softer voice, and we have a tendency to speak kind of fast. So don't be afraid to use a stronger voice and slow down. And I have to often remind myself just to slow down when I'm talking to people or I'm making some kind of a presentation, because it's easier for people to understand if we talk just a little bit slower. Keep in mind that you really do have a lot to say, and don't be shy about being willing to talk about you and what you know and understand. With written communication, don't press send too quickly. You want to make sure that it is as correct as you can. There is an app or a download that you can do on your computer called Grammarly. Grammarly is a very good tool. It's not a perfect tool. There's some things that I really like about it, and I use it a lot, but I will still find mistakes, or it will say, oh, you need to change this. And I look at it and I go, no, that's really what I'm wanting to say. And so it's not 100%, but it does catch a lot of mistakes that I make in my writing, because I get to typing really fast and I don't realize some of the mistakes that I made. Well, Grammarly can help catch a lot of those. And again, English is a very complicated language, and you want to have that as clean as possible. You want to make sure that you have looked through there and corrected as many mistakes as you can find. Just yesterday, I was helping a student with their LinkedIn profile, and I noticed that he was wanting to say something to the effect of, I want to know whether or not to do this, or whether or not I need to do that. And he spelled weather incorrectly. He spelled it like, oh, we're having nice weather today. You see how complicated English is. And so you want people to look over it. You want to use Grammarly to help correct that. Attend activities off campus with American friends. Things are starting to open back up here, especially in Texas, and you will be able to do those kinds of things more often, but take advantage of that. Be around American friends so that you can listen to how they talk and how they speak. Here's some more basics. Look at startups and SMEs when you're looking for a job. SMEs stands for small to medium-sized employers. The reason this is important is a lot of times students have a tendency to focus on the big names, Amazon, Facebook, those kinds of things. Yes, those companies hire tens of thousands of people. But when you compare all the people that they hire, all the large companies, that the numbers that they hire to the numbers of the small to medium-sized employers, it's actually very small. And so, yeah, Amazon may hire 25, 30,000 people, but that's a drop in the bucket compared to what SMEs do. So look at those. Don't be afraid to check those out. Polish your resume. Your resume is an employer's first introduction to you. You want it to be as near perfect as you can possibly make it. And so again, using Handshake and downloading your documents onto Handshake, that will give us an opportunity to review it and give you feedback on that. If I'm reviewing it, I want you to keep in mind, when it comes to resumes, I'm not nice. I'm a very nice person, but when it comes to resumes, I'm not nice, and I'm going to point out things that I find in there that need to be corrected. But honestly, in that situation, you don't want me to be nice. You want me to be tough on them. The people that review these, there's me and one other person. Both of us are certified professional resume writers. So we really do know what we're doing, and you need to listen up and follow the instructions that we give you. Network, network, network. There's an old saying, You either network or there's no work. We'll get into how you do your networking in a little bit. You also want to develop a plan of action. You want to sit down and really come up with what are some of the responsibilities that you want to take on when you go to work? What are some of the networks that you want to be involved in? What are some of the industries that you want to look at? You need to have a good roadmap to kind of decide where you want to go. Be sure you use INTERSTRIDE. Again, this is a great resource that is available to you. Have I mentioned that you need to start early? So be sure, start early. Also want to make sure that you do your research. Now, again, it really does all start with you. Knowing what your interests are, what your skills are. What do you bring to the table? Where do you want to go? What do you want to become? That's one of the most challenging things I think a lot of students face. Again, I work with primarily graduate students, and I may be working with a student that is working on their MBA, or they're working on their MS in data science or MS in finance. And I sit down with them and say, okay, what do you want to do? And they look at me and they go, I don't know. What? You don't know? But that's common, and that's okay. So you need to develop an idea of what you want to do. Learn about the different roles in the area that you're going into that fit who you are, because ultimately this really is about you. Take career assessments through the University Career Center or the UCC. You have access to that, and they have access to a lot more assessments than we do here. And so I refer you back over to them and just let them know that you're a tech student, and you can actually go on their website and register for the different assessments that they have to offer. And they have some really good things that you can get involved with and look at. Commit to taking some type of action every single day. Now, this doesn't have to be something big. Oh my gosh, I've got to spend 2 hours working on, getting my job. No, this can be something, just something brief. I want to research this company a little bit and take a few minutes to do that. Or, hey, I want to find another connection within this company and take a few minutes to do that. But something every single day, because small steps add up to huge gains. So do that, make that commitment. Compile a list of companies that you are interested in. Come up with at least 40. Yes, I said 40 companies that you are interested in, and start doing your research on them. Learn about the company, look at their mission statement, all of those kinds of things, so that you find out, hey, is this really someplace that I want to work or not? Research the company and what they do. What do they hire for? Use LinkedIn to see if there are some TTU alum that work there, and then network with those TTU alum. Now let's talk about some ways to gain some experience. Other than just your typical internship, there are some other things that you can do as well. For example, get involved in clubs and organizations on campus, especially if there is a club or organization that centers around your major. If you're an accounting major, I know there is an organization for accountants. Get involved in that. If you're in IT, get involved in that. I know that there are organizations for that as well. Take on leadership responsibilities in the different organizations that you become a part of. Take advantage of opportunities to learn about American culture. We have a very rich culture here. Take advantage of that. Learn about it. If you're wanting to work here, then you need to understand what the American culture is all about. find a part-time job on campus. You can work on campus without it affecting your OPT or CPT. Talk with your advisor at the International Cultural Center. They can help you with that as well. Do volunteer work on and off campus. That doesn't affect your OPT or CPT at all because you're doing volunteer. And it gives you good experience and it gives you a good way to network as you're doing that. Take leadership roles in class and on class projects. Show that you can handle those kinds of things. Any opportunity that you have to take a leadership role, do so. Seek out certifications. If your program offers certification as something kind of aside, yeah, and you can also get this while you're doing your studies, take advantage of it. And those things look good on your resume as well. I want you to understand the US hiring culture. It is very different, and you need to be able to know it and understand so that you can navigate through it. The hiring culture in the US basically boils down to buyers and sellers. And you need to understand who the players are and what their motivations are. So let's look at some of the players. First player is the company itself or upper management. Now, companies hire to produce more of something, whether it's telephones or widgets or whatever it is. You represent increased impact and revenue for the company. So understand that. The next thing is, or the next player in this, are the hiring managers. Managers hire to achieve growth. Employers are seen as a remedy to some sort of pain that the company is having. They're needing more of accounting. They need something more in IT. Whatever it is, the company is experiencing pain of some sort in that area, and you may be the remedy to that pain. So hiring managers look at that. Next are the team members that you will be working with. Team members see new hires as a solution to pain, but they also want to get to know, like, and trust you. There's a thing called the know, like, trust factor. They want to bring somebody in, first of all, that they can know, like, and trust. They see a new hire as someone who is an absolute savior or an absolute threat, anything in between. They hope that you are more along the lines of the savior. Anytime you introduce a new person to a team, you bring somebody new in, it is going to have an effect on the team. It is going to change the environment for good or bad, but it's going to change it. And so they want to know, how are you going to change this? What impact are you going to have if we bring you in to here? And then there's human resources, HR. This is also known as the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper's job primarily is to keep you out. And there's some ways around that you have to know kind of what you're doing with that. But when it comes to hiring, that's their role. Now, let's talk about hiring decisions and who makes those and why. Hiring decisions are often based on an emotional appeal, very subjective. They're looking for the right fit. How well do you fit into the culture at this company? Yeah, grades are important. They need to know that you can do the job. But how well do you get along with people? And you may be able to do the job, but can you communicate with people? So all of those things are fairly subjective. So yes, keep your grades up because they're going to look at those, but you need to develop yourself as a person also. Develop your soft skills. These are also known as transferable skills. These are things like problem solving and written and verbal communication skills, detail orientation, your organizational ability. How well do you work on a team? Are you creative? Do you have good analytical ability? I'm going to step back again and talk about communication skills for just a moment. Yes, verbal communication is hard. Written communication is an art form, and it really needs to be worked on and developed. You also want to show your passion for your work, and this is kind of where the communication, the written communication skills come into play. Set up a blog where you're writing about your passion for your work so that you can impress people with how strongly you feel about this area. Are you a cultural fit? Again, cultural for the company. Guys, this is a two-way street. You want to make sure that they are a fit for you, not just you are a fit for them. I've sat on both sides of the interviewing desk, and I remember very well interviewing for a position, and when I got through, I felt like, oh my gosh, there is no way I'm going to go to work for these people. It was not a fit. And I was hoping they would not offer me the job, and thankfully they didn't, so I didn't have to turn them down. But I just knew that it was not going to be a fit. And so you want to make sure that it fits you as well. Now let's talk about the impact of culture. Now, this is your culture, where you come from. I want you to think about some ways that your home culture is different from American culture. Probably didn't take you very long to go, oh yeah, here's some major differences here. What are some of the things in American culture that would be considered rude in your home culture? What are some things from your home culture that may be considered rude here? It works both ways. But think about those. Now, your culture is a part of who you are. That doesn't change when you get off the plane here in the United States. You are still you. You bring all of that cultural influence with you. That's not a bad thing. In fact, that's a good thing. So make sure that you remember who you are and what your culture is all about and all of the good things about that culture. As an international student, you have a unique opportunity to really honor and market the strengths that you learn from your home culture. Have a chance to honor that. So take advantage of it. Now, there are some major advantages of being bicultural. You are capable of evaluating problems, looking at opportunities and conflicts from very different perspectives, because you can look at it from your home culture and you can look at it from American culture and get a very different viewpoint that you can help others with. Bicultural students tend to be more creative and innovative. You kind of have to be in order to be here. Bicultural students tend to be more successful, which when I look at that statement, I'm really not surprised. And the reason for that is because it really takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of drive and ambition to leave your home, travel all the way here, and go to a school that most likely you had never even heard of before, to a place you had certainly probably never visited before, that takes a lot. So that drive, that willingness to take risk and those kinds of things, really what makes people more successful. So it doesn't surprise me that bicultural students tend to be more successful. You also have a tendency to enrich workplace culture. You bring a different perspective, which is a very good thing. You tend to be more mature. Again, you have to be. Just simply being here, you have to be more mature to be willing to take that risk. And I'm sure that you probably look at some of your classmates and like, grow up. Oh my gosh. I was a non-traditional student. I was a few years older when I finally decided to go to college. And it really did make a big difference for me. And I remember looking at my fellow freshmen thinking, oh my gosh, are you still in high school? What's the deal? And I'm sure you probably run into that some yourself. You're also adaptable. You like to challenge yourself. You must, or you wouldn't be here. Now, let's keep in mind that it's not what you know. It's who you know and who knows you. Looking for work in the United States really is a team sport. And it's called networking. Now, at times, networking can feel a little fake. It's really not, but it can kind of feel that way sometimes. What you want to do when you start networking is really kind of develop your real story. Find a storyline about yourself that works and that you can kind of go over in your head and practice, and allow people to get to know who you are and value you for what you bring to the table. But develop your real story. Think about what motivated you to leave your country and come here. Why did you choose the United States? There's a lot of other countries that do the international study abroad or the international student deal. Why did you choose here? Why did you choose Texas Tech? Why did you choose Texas at all? What do you think about your experience so far? What's it been like? If you've been here for a while, what would you say about it? Strive for genuine conversations. It really does inspire respect, and it creates a desire to learn more about you. Remember that know, like, trust factor. Speaking of know, like, trust, people want to get to know the real you. This is where you leave your elevator pitch behind. Now you will get to a point where you will need that. But right now for networking, they're just getting to know you. Be genuine. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. Be who you are. Be proud of who you are. State your intentions. What do you hope to do? Where do you hope to be in 5 years? Remember that time is very valuable. Thank people for their time. Respect their time. This is huge. Guys, don't ever ask somebody for a job. You do, conversation's over. Don't sell yourself. Just be yourself. So share your story. Display utmost professionalism. And be very aware of nonverbal communication. Remember, 80 to 85% of all communication is nonverbal. It's not the words we use, it's how we use them. And they may be the very same words, but with verbal communication, change the meaning completely. So be very aware of that. And remember, A lot of times there's a big difference between culture with your nonverbals as well. Let's talk about networking and informational interviewing. When you start networking, you start with the people that are around you. This is going to be friends, classmates, professors, those kinds of things. But keeping in mind, most likely your friends and fellow classmates aren't going to be able to help you get a job, but it's a good place to start networking because they may know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that can hire you. Use LinkedIn. If you do not have a LinkedIn profile, you need to get one set up. We can help you with all of the important things about LinkedIn that you're going to need. It's a very, very good resource, and it is free. You want to create a list of companies that you would like to work for. Set up a spreadsheet, come up with at least 40 different companies that you would like to work for. Yeah, I said 40. That's a small list. But when you start getting into those small to medium-sized employers, you're going to realize, oh my gosh, there's thousands of them up there. How do I choose only 40? When you start making that list, then you start looking to see if there are TTU alumni that work at that company, because they can be a huge resource. You can find all of that on LinkedIn. Reach out, make connections, keeping in mind that not all connections are created equal, guys. I found some connections with companies that I think, oh my gosh, this is going to be the perfect connection. This is going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. And I never hear back from them. All right, it's okay. There's plenty more. Then once you make a connection, what you're going to want to do is you're going to ask for 20 minutes of their time to do an informational interview. You just want to talk to them about their experience with the company. What's it like working there? What does your daily routine look like? What are some things that you learned after you went to work there that you wish you knew before? What kind of advice would you give somebody coming into this profession? What are some skills that you need to know? It's called an informational interview. You never ask them for a job, again, but you're asking them about themselves and about the company. Let's talk about the interview process, not the informational interview process, but the interview process that you would go through with a company. It's like a test, but more importantly, it really is conversational. You want to go in there, you want to show who you are, show your personality, have a good time. I've come out of interviews actually enjoying the interview itself. No matter what side of the table I was sitting on, enjoyed the interview. So relax and carry on a conversation. Focus on what you have to offer. What do you bring that they need? For international students, think about the STARE format. STARE stands for situation. This is a situation that you faced. What tasks were involved in the situation? What actions did you take? What were the results? And how did you feel you handled the situation? What feelings were involved as part of this? They're going to ask you questions like, tell me about a time when. If there was a disagreement at work, how did you handle it? You'll go through those, so be prepared to answer those type of questions. Take a moment to think about your response when they ask you a question. Just pause for maybe a second or two. Think about it, especially since English is most likely your second language. How are you going to convey what you're wanting to tell them? When I was involved as an interviewer, it always bothered me if somebody started answering the question before I had really even finished asking it. I know, wait a second, you're not thinking through this. I always wanted them to pause. So take that moment to think about your response. Sit back and think, am I talking too fast? Again, when we get nervous, we have a tendency to speak too fast. So practice speaking slowly. Practice informality. Again, this is a conversation that you're having with the interviewer. If the question is confusing, don't hesitate to ask for clarification, because sometimes they may come up with a question, they know what they're asking, but they're not conveying it real clearly. And so just ask them to repeat it or ask for clarification. If you mispronounce a word, guys, don't worry about it. Just move on. I mispronounce words all the time. Don't sweat it. It happens. Answer questions in a direct way. Now, never give just a yes or no answer, but be direct about it. Choose one or two key messages that you want to convey to the interviewer. What do you want them to walk away with? What is it about you that you want them to know? Then have a list of questions ready for you to ask. Remember, this interview is a two-way street. You are interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you. I always tell students, have a list of between 10 and 15 questions ready to ask. Now, that may seem like a lot, but you're only going to ask 3, maybe 4 questions. But what if you have 3 or 4 questions that you're planning on asking, and all of those questions were answered within the interview process itself? And they get to the end and they go, okay, so what questions do you have for us? And you look at them and you go, nothing, I guess. That's not a good look. Believe me, you want to have questions. I've walked into interviews where I had 2 pages of questions. And I didn't mind sitting there going through those and going, okay, here's one. Yeah, what about this? And asking them the questions. So have those ready to go. Be sure to know H-1B visa rules. These change, and so you need to be aware of them. This is the thing that can really scare away hiring managers because they're not familiar with it. So if you can help them gain an understanding, that looks good for you. The more you know, the better you look. Guys, you don't have to be the expert. You're not the immigration attorney, but you need to know the basics. So make sure that you're very familiar with it. Where do you get that information? You get it from your advisor in the International Cultural Center, and you get it from INTERSTRIDE. You can also go to www.uscis.gov. So go on there, learn as much as you can. Take it serious, guys, especially meeting with your advisor. They keep up with things all the time as well. I cannot emphasize this enough. Guys, this is about your career, not your visa. If a hiring manager gets the sense that you're only looking for a visa instead of a stimulating position, guys, it's over. They're not going to hire you. Pure and simple. They want somebody that's passionate about their career, not just trying to get a visa. So search for a career that will be personally rewarding to you, where you feel like you offer value. The visa will follow. So prepare yourself for your career, not for a visa. Why won't a company sponsor? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Number one, they don't understand the process. They understand the process, but they want to avoid the time, commitments, and expenses involved, which the expenses really are not that much. And they don't want to hire someone who may be forced to leave their job if they don't win the visa lottery. Okay, that's understandable. They believe there's an adequate supply of candidates here in the United States, and they feel a duty to hire American workers. So it is a challenge, no doubt. It is a challenge. Can it be done? Yeah, it can be done. I don't want to discourage you, but I don't want to give you false hope at the same time. It's going to take work. So why will a company sponsor? Well, several reasons there also. They may be under intense time pressure to fill a job, and you're there, you're able to do it, and okay, let's get going. They're having trouble finding skills they need in U.S. work authorized candidates. Okay, that works to your advantage. Someone of influence within the company decides to make it happen. Pure and simple. Finding employment in the U.S., guys, it really is very possible. It takes work on your part, but you have a great deal to offer. And I will come back to something that I've said at least once or twice. Start early. Start early. Because the earlier that you get this going, the better your chance of finding somebody that will sponsor you. I hope this information has been helpful to you. Don't hesitate to contact me if you have questions. Don't hesitate to get on INTERSTRIDE and visit with your advisor at the ICC. Best of luck to you. I hope things work out. Let me know if you need something.